Tell me about your journey when you decided to trust your gut. That's where I
Well,
want to start with you.
it's
Unpacking your life.
I wouldn't say it is it's an ongoing process. I wouldn't say it's always easy, but I always say kind of my inciting incident started when I was 17. And I idolized my sister's boyfriend. He was about 10 years older than me, and I knew him since I was 10 years old. And he was this super smart, good-looking guy, um, athletic, and he wanted to be a writer. And he always kept a journal. And he was the first person that I ever met that made smart like look really cool. So I wound up going to a Grateful Dead concert at 17 and kind of accidentally taking a heroic dose of mushrooms. And I would say that, now we call it plant.
About the
What's
right age.
Yeah, exactly. Now we call it plant medicine because we know the benefits to it. But I experienced what I would call now unity consciousness. And I was like, what is this? What is life? It's so much bigger than we thought. There's something so much bigger going on here. And 17 is when I decided I wanted to be a writer. So I started keeping a journal. And then I wanted to be a writer so bad. I started asking to be used as an instrument of peace. I was like, whoever or whatever is going on, just speak through me. And then I did the college thing, and post college, I was chasing, .com bus in New York City. And I moved out to Seattle and, was slowly, my internal world was wilting away at companies like Microsoft and advertising for T-Mobile and all this stuff. And around 35, I remembered that I used to always ask to be used as an instrument of peace. So I
Hmm.
started asking that again. And then all of a sudden I wound up connecting with Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you're familiar with him.
Yes, yes. At this time, after the mushrooms and everything, because the
Yeah,
mushrooms will definitely give you some clarity.
for
I
sure.
didn't say that. It will definitely give you some clarity at that age. Did
Yeah.
you decide at that point? Do you feel as though you were that insightful with who you wanted to become?
I mean, I do. I was always I was, kind of one of the most popular kids. I was like one of the top soccer players in the state of New Jersey, but I was also this kind of shy and introverted and very introspective kid.
Mhm.
And probably far more sensitive than people realized.
Right.
And so I was like a chameleon and I could move through all sorts of people, but I was, from 17 to 21, 23, I was wrestling with these huge questions of purpose and what we're doing here. And sometimes to the point where it got me in, a lot of trouble on the inside.
What brought that on, as a young person? Because, when you're young, you think about the things, or you think, well, I might want to be this. I might, for
Yeah.
me, I would like to be a doctor, but I can't stand the sight of blood. I always
Yeah.
have this feeling when I see it or see a cut or anything. And at that age, when I meet people that say, "Oh, I knew I wanted to be that from day one," I'm
Yeah.
always, wow. And then, people like you and myself, we kind of go through this whole thing in our head. We're not sure what we want to be, because that's a huge question to ask any young person. What
Oh,
do you
yeah.
want to be when you grow up? Well,
Yeah.
hell, I don't know. I'm taking mushrooms and trying to figure out what this is about and have fun now. And you're asking me about what I want to be when I'm, 30.
Yeah. Well, my freshman year of high school, I got a poem published in the senior literary magazine. And then
Mm.
I had some teachers who, sort of encouraged me to express myself like that. And then when I had this experience when I was 17, I just, whether it was nature or nurture, I'm the youngest by almost 9 years in my family. I call myself a martini baby. Um, so, in one way, I was almost an only child because at the time I was 10 or something, nine, like all my siblings were out of the house and in college. So, I spent a lot of time by myself. And then, I guess you could call it the calling at 17 in that sort of mushroom experience. For anybody who hasn't done mushrooms, it was almost like it shattered this kind of, perhaps program trajectory from
Mhm.
where I grew up and everything. Like maybe that was moving into the city, going into finance or becoming a lawyer or something like that.
Right.
But I felt this calling, and at the human level, I was full of fear and doubt and how am I ever going to get there, wherever there is. But at the soul level, I felt like this was my calling. And there
Hmm.
was this voice in me that was like, well, somebody has to be the voice of our generation. Not that I'm that yet, but writing is probably, out of all the arts, I would say the longest of the long game, because you have to live a lot of life experience to
Right.
have something significant to write about. So
Exactly.
I knew, like, 17 and in college when I was reading people like Kerouac and Steinbeck and James Joyce, I knew that if I wanted to have big things to write about, I had to have big experiences. And to
Exactly.
me, that was travel. And when I was 13 and 15, I kind of got the travel bug because I got to play soccer in Europe.
Mhm.
So, but then I was stuck for years, and I was just kind of in debt and like, how am I going to, how am I ever going to do this? And then when I was, I think 33, I had a relationship and a job end in the same week. And the girl was like, I need time and space. And I
Oh
disappeared for
no.
days. And, I can't, and then she reached out. She's like, what are you up to? And I'm like, well, I just bought a one-way ticket to Tanzania and I'm going to volunteer at an orphanage for a month. So, and of course, as the young dysfunctional game of love goes, she couldn't get enough of me. But I took off to
Of course.
Tanzania for the first, for kind of my first adult trip, and it was this extraordinary orphanage created by this woman from Long Island, and I knew, and it was almost my first kind of writing opportunity. She
Mhm.
wanted me to write her book, but her best friend was her biggest, financial beneficiary, and she fancied herself a writer. And I was like, okay, this book is never going to get written. But I
Right.
knew it was a special place. And then 10 years later, 60 Minutes did a story on it. That was kind of the first opening for me. And then I did a bunch of other things, like my friend and I took off to Europe and we made up this whole fake story that we got money to shoot a pilot. And I had business cards created and we made this fake website and we were just trying to create a travel show, and it wound up being like about two knuckleheads from New Jersey who were like trying to make a travel show. uh, and then I wound up having kind of a decade of sick parents. My father passed away in 2004. He was actually third day in Normandy, World War II, Purple Heart Bronze Star veteran.
Wow.
And then my mother passed away in 2010. So kind of during that time, I was going home to New Jersey to visit sick parents while my friends were going on, vacations all over the world. So I was kind of like, all right, this is my time. And I thought, when you have a parent who's sick for a while, you're
Mhm.
always kind of preparing for it. But then when
Right.
the finality of that experience happens, it's like the rug was swept out of me and I was
Yeah. You
scared
never
and I was lost and I was untethered, I suppose you could say. And my sister's friend was kind of an energy healer, and she said, okay, you're a writer. I want you to do this exercise every day. I want you to write down 5 things you're grateful for and 5 things that you want to create. And you're going to find that the things you create today are going to be the things you're grateful for in the future. And I was like, all right, I'll try anything. And I had been unemployed for probably 2.5 months. I went to say goodbye to my mom. I came back to Seattle. The ad agency was like, sorry, your job's not here anymore, because I was freelancing.
Wow.
So, I just started doing this gratitude intention exercise October
I,
10th,
I love
2000.
that. I love that you stated that.
Yeah.
That was your whole premise of your journey. You went with nothing but gratitude and intention, and that's the beginning of servitude,
Yeah.
basically.
Hmm.
And when you figure that out, you don't feel like there's anything lacking anymore. You kind of go inside and you find that person that you're looking for. It's like you said in your answers, you said, when you're in alignment with self,
Hmm.
that's all you need,
Yeah.
because it's going to open up and it's going to show you, you're going to have the synchronicities that are showing you. It's like I always tell people in my business, agents, success leaves clues. And if you don't see those clues and you don't pick them up, then you're going to be lost no matter what. Because if you don't recognize that these are the clues to success, and it's
Yeah.
not found in the chase, as you and I both know, it's found, deep under the belly, under the,
Yeah.
underlying belly and fire and ambition, and that's where it evolves and comes to light.
And in the expansion of your awareness and consciousness, because once you start
Absolutely.
to expand your awareness, then you start to see those breadcrumbs of serendipity and synchronicities that are guiding you on the way. But
100%.
So I started keeping these exercise, and probably a week to 10 days later, I got this job, which was exactly what I asked for. I was like, I surrender the money. I just want cool people. I want freedom. And so I wound up getting this job. And then at 3 months, it was a 3 month contract. They extended it to 6 months, but I was like, I'm leaving at 6 months to go to India. And before right before I left, my boss was like, "Would you be interested in working 10 to 20 hours a week while you're in India?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, make American money, in India." And so after 3 months in India, which one of the things I wrote in my gratitude and intention journal was, I want to be of service while I travel. And I wound up, through an old family friend, I said yes to volunteering at an eco ashram, having no idea what that meant. I
Right.
thought I was just going to be sweeping floors and making hospital corner beds and stuff like that. And it turned out this guy was India's most important environmental lawyer, sort of the
Wow.
grandfather of environmental law. He sued the state of India over the course of 20 years to create a green zone around the Taj Mahal. Every Friday for a bunch of years, the Supreme Court of India was holding cases for him, and he was speaking for the voiceless people of India. And I just got to trail him for a month and a half. And it turned out that he wanted somebody to write grants. And I had never written a grant, but I'm like, I can write. So all I need is the structure. Yeah. So I can't even tell you how much of my life has come out of this simple exercise. And in my first book, which this whole journey was based on, it's called A Curious Year in the Great Vivarium Experiment. The URL is just A Curious Year. Every
I
couple
love the
chapters.
Liberian experiment. I love
Yeah.
that. That's like, yeah, I love that. When I saw that, I went, okay, one, I haven't seen this word in years.
Yeah.
And two, let me look it up and like correct of what it means. And then I read it and I was like, wow, okay, this is really
Yeah.
interesting to couple it up together, the
Yeah.
experiment and being in a vivarium. I thought, wow, brilliant.
Well, the reason why I came up with that word is I used to live right near the Seattle Sculpture Park, and it was part of the Seattle Art Museum. And every day, kind of walking home from work, I'd walk through this thing, and I didn't know what it was, but a nurse log had fallen about 30 miles away, and the vivarium created around it. It was like living art because it mimicked the environment of 30 miles away. And then one day, I just happened to be I never saw this chalkboard before, but it said Vive means life, Vivarium means a place of life. And I was like, oh my
Mhm.
God, this is the whole concept of the book.
This is
Inside the
it.
Vivarium is our individual life's journey, but outside it is what we're all connected to, which is
Right.
consciousness. And, so yeah, it's,
Nonsense. The external is such nonsense that it blurs the visions of everyone that's trying to figure out who they are, what they want, where do they want to be in life.
yeah,
I mean, it's so many, unanswered questions when you're not in alignment with who you are. I
hmm,
went through that myself, and it's not an easy, feat. Especially at my age. I mean, I'm older. I'm older than some, but I think about life all the time, and I think about who I am as an individual and what I have to offer, and I understand now. I so understand lack, so understand asking the universe for what I want,
yeah,
having affirmations every morning, and the interesting part about understanding that is if you go back like you said, into your journals, and they said to you, the 5 things that you will write down will be the future things that you accomplish. It's
yeah,
so true. I mean, I'm one to keep all my journals, and I have gone back in my journals, and I'm like, oh my God, this was done, this was done, this was, and you check off all these things, and you can't believe even accomplished them
yeah. I
because
mean,
they're so far away when you're putting them down. They're not that close to you. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go for this. But
yeah,
my thing is, if you can do it, Tim, then I can do it.
yeah. I'm just like a kid from New Jersey who had a dream.
I
And
am
now
too.
I get to work with some of the biggest thought leaders of
Mhm,
our time. But I
mhm,
mean, I think the great secret for, your listeners and everything is that the external world is just a projection of your internal world. So if you're experiencing like fear and doubt and lack in your internal world, that is what you are going to experience in your external world. If
mhm,
you are constantly every day moving towards a state of, love and joy and creation, that is what you are going to see in your external world. And for years, I lived in kind of this, fear bubble that was sort of cast by my mother. It was sort of the way she probably loved me, it was just a projection of fear. She was an incredibly loving woman, and but she
I
was a
could
very
see that, with
fearful.
mom. Of
Yeah, she
course.
was a very fearful woman. And so one time my sister said, "I think you do all the crazy things you do as sort of a, a, a fulcrum swing to combat all that fear." I've bought one-way tickets to India, Mexico. I moved to Mexico for love. That didn't work out, but it's all part of the narrative. Uh, I volunteered in an orphanage in Tanzania. I knew that if I wanted to have a big life experience, I had big things to write about. I had to have big life
100%.
experiences, and you have to take risks, and it's not without fear. I mean, I still,
Every
when I landed in India, first of all, on the way to the airport, my probably 12-year-old niece was in the back seat. My sister's driving me, and I just had a total breakdown. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm like, I don't have a place to live. Everything's in storage. Like I just
Yeah.
severed my car
But that's
insurance.
fear. That's normal fear, though. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
shit, where am I going? I don't know what
yeah,
I'm doing, but I'm going. But it's the thing that's inside of you that's make you keep moving forward, because that's the strength that's coming from within to combat that fear. It's
yeah,
that, it's the universe saying to you, Tim, it's going to be all right. It's going to be
yeah.
all right. And you just go. When I was a flight attendant many years ago, I had a lot of friends that were going all over the country domestically, and none of them would go to Europe. We were 20 years old, and 21 years old. And I was like, you guys, we can always travel in America.
Yeah.
Why don't we go to Europe? Why don't we just go? What's the problem? And no one went. I went to Venice for the first time in my life by myself. Of course, I was sad in this romantic town, alone, standing on the edge of the, the where the gondolas are. I
Yeah.
mean, didn't know anybody. But it was okay, because the next day I met a lovely, lovely guy who just wanted my friendship and took me to his house to meet his wife and his family. And I
Amazing.
stayed there with them. And guess what? I was safe. I never
Yeah.
thought about it again. So I did the same thing in Paris, the same thing in Turkey. I ended up living in Venice, never thought about it. And at that age of 2021, I had no fear. I would go anywhere. I would get on a train and go to Turkey, go to
Yeah.
Istanbul, and say, okay, so what's next? Now,
Yeah.
today, which is interesting, I'm not that courageous to just go anywhere. Like today, I will not skydive. I used to be an avid skydiver. I won't do it today.
I don't ever need to do that.
I didn't need to, but I was just that crazy. I wasn't a crazy wild girl. I'm pretty much conservative, but I do enjoy life.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to have to say. And then this is what brought me to unpacking my life. People in and around my situation in my life was dimming my light,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like a caged animal, and I had to just let go of everything. I just ordered Mel Robbins' book, Let Go, because I
Mm-hmm.
get that when you have to let go. But I wanted to let go in a peaceful manner,
Yeah.
amicable. I didn't want to let go and, everybody around you is affected by it. Because when you unpack, it's not just about you. It's
Yeah.
about the people in and out of your life, in and around your life. So
Yeah.
when you're unpacking friendship, you're unpacking toxic relationships, you might be unpacking that job. It doesn't matter when you have to unpack. And I think people should unpack frequently.
Yeah.
I went and did this one huge unpacking. But I think, if we check in with each other as friends also and as people, I think we would unpack more frequently and have conversations like this, because these are adult conversations. People don't let go, and and you're being pretty vulnerable. You don't know me. You just met me
Yeah.
today. And
Yeah.
even in your questions, you were so open and genuine. I felt like I've known you for quite some time, because a lot of the answers were parallel to my life. And I was just like, wow. And with that being said, Tim, I want to ask you another question. How do you integrate your work and your personal life when it comes to having support?
Well, just to finish one other thought, I would say what I've learned over time, and I know that this is something you've learned, is that when you jump, the net appears. But
Mhm.
it's so hard when you get up to the edge and you're looking into the unknown and the abyss. But,
Right.
if we want to change, we know the known self. If we want to change, we have to jump into the unknown self.
Mhm.
That's where the magic and the mystery is, and the
Right.
serendipity and the synchronicities, because
It all
you're
happens.
acting in alignment with your higher self, your mind, body, spirit, and you are enacting courage, and I think, the universe supports that. But getting back to your question, which was dividing my personal and professional life, I wouldn't say there's much division. I mean, even when I'm like walking, I go for walks a lot in this Palm Canyon near here, and I'm always well, I actually I don't think. I try to put myself in trance, and I put on my music, and it's usually improvisation or melodic or something, and it distracts the thinking brain. And when the thinking brain is quieted, then new information and ideas could come in. I have a
That's
new I have a new book that I just signed. Actually, I have the contract right here. I haven't signed with the literary agent yet, but um, I didn't know what this whole book was about. I gave my old literary agent a stack of papers, and he chose the one that I liked best. And I would just, I've used this process for a long time. When I go for a walk, I ask myself the creative question that needs to be solved, but I don't
Mhm.
seek an answer. I let it come to me. And something that's pretty wild is I had this kind of legendary literary agent that put Eckhart Tolle and Neil Donald Walsh on the map. He did the Dummy series. He's total visionary. And he snapped me up really quick because he got what I was doing. And
Well,
he wound up, we sort of put my book on pause while I was working with this other athlete. And then by the time we got back to it, there were all these delays. And he was like, "Oh, I'm sick, but I'm going to be better next month." And it kept going next month. And then he was like, "I'm going to be better in September." And then he passed away last December. And I've been asking him, like, Bill, just guide me to the right literary agent. And I've had a bunch of calls with different people and it hasn't worked out. And yesterday on the call, in the beginning, I said, "Well, my first literary agent, Bill Gladstone." And she said, "What did you just say?" She's like, "That's who I started my literary career with. I
see, it
studied,
all
I
happens. The
learned
universe.
under Bill Gladstone." And I was like, wow. I mean,
Wow.
that when I try to, live in the mystery and be open. And if I had to distill my work into two
Mhm.
pillars, it would be surrender and trust, because that's what I'm trying to master in this life. And, to make these giant leaps that I've made, I have to surrender and trust. When you buy a one-way ticket and land in a continent of 23 billion, you don't know anybody,
100%.
you're in surrender and trust.
I
And
think, surrender and trust, those two words like together makes a hell of a lot of sense. And they could be the start of many conversations in different ways.
yeah,
Um, even with lovers, like you said, I had a relationship, toxic relationships. It's about being your authentic self, even in workplaces, showing up as who you are. I mean, you can't keep apologizing, when things go wrong about, oh, well, I didn't know this. This is not usually who I am. Well, that's BS. No one's going to go for that. You
yeah,
have to, unpack apologetically
hmm,
and boldly, and it's unfortunate that people can't surrender, and be authentic in
yeah,
relationships or in the workplace. And it would be so much better because the creativity would be there also, and the uniqueness, because then everyone would show who they are. But
yeah,
when you can't, everyone's trying to either outdo each other or, up each other, or find something very similar with a little twist. And we all know there's nothing under the sun that's
yeah,
new.
yeah,
Everything has a little twist and it's coming back out. So
yeah.
what lessons did you learn with that when
Well,
you act? I mean, when you traveled, what lessons stuck with you as everything unfolded?
one, like I said, when you jump, the net appears.
Right.
I think misnomer about surrender is that it's passive. It's actually very active. It's letting go. Unpacking is another word for it, but it's
Right.
it's trusting in this greater organizing intelligence to guide you and bring you to where you're supposed to be. And I just I part of my daily practice is that gratitude intention exercise. I
Fantastic.
I meditate pretty daily. And in that meditation, I kind of connect with my future self, which is what my new book is about, and it's called Dream Tethering.
I
And
love it.
yeah,
I love
because
that.
I
I love
kind
that.
of like when I was talking with a friend and telling him, sort of my process, and I said in the first book is kind of about the dream of the 17-year-old self,
Mhm.
and I wanted to be a writer, and I said uh, the dream of the 17-year-old self is like shooting a grappling hook out into the future. And if you're strong enough, focused enough, and determined enough to stay on the line, you're going to get there. But the external world is always going to try and knock you off. And then remember, the external world is just a mirror of the internal world. So,
Which causes fear.
yeah, the fear. But
Mhm.
the new work, I think I'm actually going to have to change it. But it was me talking to my 17-year-old self about everything I've learned about consciousness and love, and I created a new model of self-actualization, like an update to Maslow's hierarchy of needs based on concentric circles, because I think self-actualization is not a pinnacle state of which there is no fall or deviation or ascension. It's a dynamic state of expansion and contraction. So each one of these concentric circles represents a level of consciousness. And if you want to get to the next level of self actualization, you have to overcome three things: fear, trauma, or limited thinking.
Mhm.
And you do that through right thinking, right action, right feeling, and right language. Not only the language you speak to the external world, but the language you speak to yourself, because that's
Absolutely.
far more detrimental than
Oh, far
anything.
more.
And I've had a very, very rough. I mean, I'm good at beating myself up. I've gotten a lot better,
Yeah.
but I've had so many, girlfriends or my sister or brother or something like, have you ever heard the way you talk about yourself? And
I would
that
say
was,
you're hard on yourself. You're too hard
yeah,
on
yeah.
yourself because you're an
I mean,
achiever.
yeah, I have very, very big goals and very
That's
high
right.
expectations, but something that we always forget is you just don't arrive at a goal. Like life
Mhm.
is an unfolding, and that again is where you have to trust the process. You do the work, and I said in this next work, when you are in alignment with your higher self, it's like you become the boring machine, and matter conforms to your will. The boring machine is that machine that carves out tunnels. So when you are in that flow, matter, the external world, starts conforming to your will. And that's where the breadcrumbs and the serendipities and the synchronicities show up. And,
That's where the
I
magic happens.
that's where the magic happens. And, I
Mhm.
talk about a breadcrumb as, something that exists in your external world that leaps out of your external world into your internal world with such a registering force that you can't help but notice. It could be a random conversation with somebody on a subway, or it could be something that you see that's like, that's kind of out of place. That's weird, but
Right.
you take note of it. So a breadcrumb on its own means nothing. But then once you develop the awareness to start seeing these breadcrumbs, they start stacking up and they become the guiding force,
But don't
and
you think that's believing in the universe and really understanding what that means? And when you ask, it is given, of course. I
yeah.
mean, that's what has happened in my life. That's one reason I became a life coach. I was like, wait a second, this cannot be everything
Yeah.
that I'm hearing it is. And it is. 100%. You ask and it is given. You guide yourself right in the right manner to the right place. You're going to get what you want. And like you said, you have to do big things
Yeah.
to have a big story. You
Hmm.
can't tell a story quite well if you haven't done anything in your life. It's like with real estate. No one's going to give you their $10 million property to sell if you've
Yeah.
never sold anything. I mean,
Hmm.
you would have to be a lucky duck to get somebody's $10 million property and you don't even know what you're doing or
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you would get it. But, that's very interesting, all the things that you're saying, because, when COVID was here, there were a lot of strong people that we weren't checking on. And I was putting it out there a lot. Check on your strong friends. I realized I was one of the strong friends I was saying to everyone, check on.
Yeah.
I didn't I was didn't realize how dark of a hole I was going in. And I had to like really catch myself and say all the things that you learned, because coaches need coaches.
Yeah.
We need a coach also
And
sometimes.
writers need editors. Every people need
Exactly.
people. Yeah.
Exactly. It makes the world go round. And
Hmm.
if you're not open to that and open to being vulnerable and releasing all that
Yeah.
toxicity, yeah. I mean, you can drown yourself. You
Yeah.
can like totally drown yourself and go into this dark hole that it's hard to climb out of. And
For
when
sure.
you're someone that's ambitious and always had drive, something's not right when that happens. So
Yeah.
that's when I said, I told you I was going to get this, but you have to let go, pretty
Yeah.
much let go. So I want to ask you this. What mindset shift did you have in unpacking everything like this? I mean, because you completely unpacked at a very young age.
Yeah. I mean, it's just been a constant process, and I think I'm driven by an insatiable curiosity to understand how the universe works. And to understand how the universe works, I have to understand how I work.
Right.
And like a lot of that is doing all of that hard work to uncover your unconscious programs, the programming, conditioning, and what I call the core wounds, things that happen at a very young age that they, again, with the registering force that it creates this neural network, it may not have affected somebody else, but for whatever reason, this person, a person said something and it became your story. So then when certain situations arise in life, these triggers happen,
Hmm.
you're coming at them as that wounded 8-year-old, but you don't even realize it. So until you unpack those things, you're just repeating the same patterns and having the same
Right.
relationships and having the same experiences and the same jobs. So, you know, if you want to change the world, you've got to change yourself. If you want
This
to
is
change your experience, you have to change your internal world. And you have to unpack all of those wounds and programming and conditioning, because the truth is we're really unlimited beings, but we have been programmed and conditioned into limitations. We've been programmed into believing this third dimension is all about this out there. But really, when you think about it, nothing was ever created without the thought of it alone first. So, skyscrapers, telecommunications, aviation,
absolutely.
thought came first. So this is a dimension of thought. And this dimension is about learning how to demonstrate our prowess to create from thought alone. And that's the great secret that, it's almost like everything in our external world and our social media and everything else. It's to make us diminutive, and it's to
Right.
keep us in these programmed little boxes. But once you break out of that box and you figure out the game,
Variant. Yeah.
yeah, you can be unlimited.
Mhm.
But then you have to remember that everything takes time. Like in the third dimension, we have time and space. So it takes time for the thought to manifest in physical reality.
Right.
If we didn't have time and space, thoughts would manifest immediately.
Of
But
course.
we have time and space, and we have to go somewhere to get something. But there is an easier way, which I've learned, and this is what my work is about. This is, and it's, um, I in this new book, again, I don't know if it's probably not going to be my 17-year-old self. I guess I'm going to talk to the reader, but I say the central question of my life. I said to my younger self, I'm like, I'm going to save you a lot of time and effort and tell you this central question to your life. Am I powerful enough? Do I believe in myself to become the creator, the executor, and the manifester of the dream? The answer is yes, but you
Yes.
you got to learn how the mechanics of the universe works, and
Mhm.
you got to be in surrender and trust, and you got to be in alignment. When all those things line up, you find flow, and
Mhm.
flow is when things come to you effortlessly.
And I mean, and when that happens, I think we are so surprised that everything is working, and we
Yeah,
forget about we put it in place to work. And
yeah,
you're right. We're unlimited beings. We can accomplish and achieve anything we want in life. All you have to do is think it and then
exactly.
execute it.
Which is why you
And
have to become aware of your
that's right.
unconscious thoughts, because
Exactly.
most people are manifesting out of these wounds, out of these programs and conditions. And they
Externally.
wonder, yeah, and they
Externally.
wonder why these things keep happening. Well, it's because you're programming fear. you're
Right.
programming lack. And then that keeps showing up in your life. You change your thoughts, you change your reality.
That's
Joe
right.
Dispenza
Words,
would say you change your energy, you change reality.
words are so powerful. And especially when you're speaking them to yourself on a daily
Yeah.
basis. And I always say, the day I can't recognize me in the mirror is the day I'm going to unpack. And that's
Yeah.
what happened. I couldn't recognize my smile. I couldn't recognize anything. And I thought, something's not right here, Jane. You're not this person. You
Yeah.
know who you are. You have to claw yourself out. You have to make sure you're telling yourself who you really are on a daily basis so you can find the courage to unpack.
Yeah.
Because you have to find the courage to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's why I say you can't keep apologizing, not even to yourself. I mean, and I love what you say when you start to go outside, you take a run. I think you can solve the world's problems when you have your music on and you're walking. Sometimes I walk for 10 miles.
Yeah. Me
Well,
too.
I know it. I've walked 10 miles. I solved all the problems, questions that I had, I didn't find answers to. But as soon as I'm out there and I'm moving and I'm in the air and exactly what you said, and the brain quiets,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that's the answer. How did that come?
I
And
mean, if
sometimes
you're
when I get
always,
back, it's gone.
yeah. Well, that's why I say when the muse speaks, you got to write it down.
Right?
But if the voice in your head is always loud and rushing and screaming, you can't
Yes.
hear the whisper of the universe.
No.
And I mean, that's kind of how I operate my life. And when I don't listen to that, which we could call intuition,
Hmm.
not great things happen.
Right.
Um, but that is sort of it's sort of the systematic altering of your internal world and learning to trust intuition. It's like, okay, you made a mistake. That's inevitable. That's how we learn. But
Okay.
how are you going to pivot from this and actualize the next decision to put
Hmm.
you on the right path?
Absolutely. And you got to know which path you want to go on.
Yeah, you have to be. I mean, I
You can
say in
tell
like,
yourself that.
yeah, I say in this work, dream tethering, you can't be tethered to ambiguity because that's what's going to keep showing up in your life. You have to be tethered to your dream. And
That's
you
right.
have to, and you have to, you were talking about language. Language is the operating system of the universe. Language is what brings amorphous ideas into something that is communicable and actionable. Language is sort of the forging pressure that organizes the electrons of possibility into physical realities. We want to go quantum physics here, but
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, like I said, right language, right action, right thoughts, right feelings. And
I
feelings are
love.
really one of the most powerful things. Dr. Joe Dispenza would say the thought sends a signal out, the feeling pulls it back. So when
Hmm.
you're connecting with that dream, when you're in the daydream, I define a dream as just something that you want to experience in physical reality. And every time you connect with that, what you're actually doing is allowing yourself to feel that dream. But then we get scared and we move the dream from the heart back up into the mind. And
Close.
that's where, bad shit happens. Like
Yeah.
you just go in the spin cycle, but the heart is the generator and the amplifier of all things, of love, of the dream. So when you are heart centered in the dream or whatever you want to accomplish, you are putting this amplifying signal out into the world. And it's been measured that, the heart casts a field that can, I believe it's up to 3 meters around you, it can be measured. So when you walk into a room and you turn around because somebody's super lit up, that's because they're heart centered and they are, you know, it's like, I guess the same could happen too when somebody really dark walks into the room and you're like, whoa,
Oh yeah.
I want to stay away from that energy vampire.
Well,
But
you can feel that energy.
yeah,
That's that type of energy when it comes in the room. I think a lot of people feels it. They're like, okay, this does not feel good, and you know it. It's like your
yeah,
intuition.
trust.
It'll
Yeah,
tell you. It something little hairs on your neck will stand up, or you'll be like, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong situation. This is not a good situation for me. I need to move really quickly.
yeah.
Tell us, how do you balance your professional success with your personal fulfillment? How do you balance that and unpack that part?
Well, I mean, I never intended to be, a ghostwriter or a literary collaborator. Um, it just kind of happened. But as it happened, I've gotten to work with, I think, two of the most brilliant minds that are out there right now, Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Zach Bush. Have you heard of Dr. Zach Bush yet?
No, no,
Oh,
not Zach Bush.
he's going to blow your mind. He's like a triple board certified doctor with the soul of a poet and a mystic. And in like a
Oh,
20-minute soliloquy, he can take you from the mitochondria to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. And you're just like, what the hell just happened? But I'm
what the
incredibly
hell
moved.
did you just say?
Yeah. But he's so eloquent too. I mean, he's like a
Mhm.
poet. And he's one of the global thought leaders on our microbiome and how it relates to our soil systems. And
Okay.
his lab has been the first lab to kind of detail the glyphosate injury across all of biology on the planet. And if you don't know what glyphosate is,
That was my
glyphosate
next question.
glyphosate is like Roundup. It's the herbicide Roundup. And we spray it on all our crops and everything. 4 billion pounds a year we spray, and it's one molecule off of Agent Orange, which is what we sprayed in Vietnam.
Wow.
This is why in the 90s, chronic disease started hockey sticking. It's
Okay.
why so many people have leaky guts and everything, because that chemical is destroying the tight barriers in your gut. So it's leaking all of what should
A
not
lot
be
of
in your
people,
internal world. In
yeah,
your
and a lot of people are talking. It's really interesting. People that are my age, like we're getting up in age, so to speak. We're past our 30s and 40s, and we're saying, it, what is this pre and probiotic that everyone's
Yeah,
talking about taking? And then you have to do your research because TV is something. It just fills us up with everything, things we have no idea what's going
yeah,
on. And all of a sudden, we're buying pre and probiotic because we
yeah,
have bad guts. And I just don't understand that because I was just talking to a friend of mine today, and he was like, when we were kids, if you taste something we ate when we were kids and taste it now, it's completely different.
yeah,
I said to him, I said, it's all the chemicals and
100%.
pesticide that they're just spraying all over things that we don't know. Organic? I mean, come on, do we really know that it's organic?
Yeah,
I think somebody blew that out of the water,
yeah.
when we were
Well,
kids. We would eat anything. You take a
yeah.
tomato out of the ground and put salt on it and eat it.
I mean, what we're really discovering now is that the foundation of health comes out of our gut. And, we used to use antibiotics, and it's actually one of the worst things you can do because it
Hmm.
destroys your entire microbiome. And what you want is a diversity of bacteria in your microbiome. Um, it's super fascinating, but to get back to your original question, I have been I don't always see what I've done because I'm so focused on, wanting myself to be seen, which is I'm finally making the move. But I sometimes I'll just be writing, and when I tap into that flow, it's like I disappear and there's just this voice, like higher voice of myself lecturing to me, and I'm just listening and moving my fingers across the keyboard, and I
Flowing.
know not to judge it or think about it because the moment I do, it's like shutting off the faucets. But I'll just be writing sometimes, be like banging on the desk, like, holy shit, I can't believe this is coming through me. Because I don't think it's me. I just, I've kind of trained myself to be sort of the instrument over the years, and I just
Nice.
did it through the practice. The practice, anything you do over and over, you're going to get very good at. I think there was some stat like if you do something for 18 minutes a day for a year, you're going to be better than 90% of the people that do it.
Hey,
So
Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant, yeah,
He's better than
uh,
everybody.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I have to just kind of like, I feel like everything is finally moving and kind of coming into this alignment, and all of the hard work and preparation I've done over the years is kind of manifesting in this moment.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I have to work on is trusting myself and trusting my life and trusting this moment. Because I feel like I've come close before, and then I've gotten fearful and it's kind of made things evaporate. I mean, maybe that's a story I'm inserting because I'm a writer. Everything's
Right?
about the narrative, but it's like I think a lot of people are afraid of life being really good because we're so conditioned to it being
Yeah. People are afraid of success
Yeah.
because they're not used to having it, or if they were never close to it. It's really
Yeah.
interesting. I have a friend, um, I think he despises anything that's successful
Yeah.
because he was there at one time and it was taken away from him. So
Mhm.
he thinks it's all fake and everyone that has anything to do with success is fake. And I say to him, I
He
say,
doesn't trust it.
yeah, you don't. And I said to him the other day, I said, you need to trust the process of how you got there the first time and restart that engine. You can't let anybody take you down that far that you can't restart your engine. And I said, every one of us, which are friends, are around you. We're pretty much successful people. So why wouldn't you want to do it again?
Yeah.
You have all of us to tap into.
Hmm.
You just kind of went off grid for 4 years. Now it's time to get it together. And it's
Exactly.
because he's afraid that it's going to be taken away from him. But the failure, it wasn't a failure. It was pretty much a robbery, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not physically, but yeah. But anyway, the thing is, you did it once. You can do it
Yeah.
again. It might not be exactly the same. It might be more successful. Who knows? But if you don't give it a shot, how will you ever know? You can't
Well, if
keep yourself because something happened. The failure should make you. I mean, anytime I do something and I think I've failed, this fire comes so fast. It's like, no way. It's no way
yeah.
that's going to. 2 days, I'm done. 2 days, I'm sad. I'm disappointed. That's it. I'm back on that train. Nothing stops the train
I'm
from
right.
moving.
I'm right there with you. Something that could have taken me down for 3 months in the past maybe takes me
Yeah,
down for 1 or 2 days, and I'm like,
yeah, no,
you just have to
no.
recondition the mind to back into that dream tether.
Success looks different to everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different, view on what success looks like.
Yeah.
Some people, money doesn't mean success to some people. So it
Yeah.
just really depends on what your success is or how
I mean,
you identify with it.
I think if you awaken to the fact that life is actually a spiritual journey,
Hmm.
then you realize that it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, because it's about the evolution of your soul, the evolution of your consciousness. And, you know, matter can neither be created nor destroyed. We just change forms. It's we're actually, my favorite quote is by this French Jesuit poet, priest, paleontologist, who was actually excommunicated from the Catholic Church. So he's probably doing something right. But he said, "We're not human beings having spiritual experiences. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. This
Makes
is
sense.
just this is just a temporary
That's it.
embodiment so that we can learn and come closer to love and to kill off anything that is not love. And that is how we grow and we expand. And I think the more we are in that field of love, you know, the more possibilities happen in our life.
Do you think society looks at love differently these days?
Well, I think there is a mass awakening happening across the planet. And I think the next 2 years are going to see an even greater expansion of consciousness. And what that looks like, we have no idea. But people are waking up, and I see it in social media feeds. I see it in people who didn't have an inkling of spirituality, and they're asking me questions about meditation and all this stuff. And as much fear mongering is in the social feeds, I see so much about healing.
Oh,
And
one recently, the last past,
recently,
I would say 3 years,
yeah,
I've seen a lot about
yeah.
healing.
Well,
Well, we had to look at what we were dealing with.
yeah, and COVID forced us to sit still and look at ourselves. And
Absolutely.
you know, you have one or two choices: you change, or you stay on the path that is not bringing you joy.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's why I think, like, what I call dream tethering is so important. I mean, the greatest service you can do to the world is to fulfill your purpose. Maybe some people don't know their purpose, but that could just be being experiencing joy every day, being a father, being a mother, being
That's what I'm saying.
you
Success
don't
is
have
different
to.
for everybody. That's
Exactly.
right. People look at success as having all the money in the world, being able to go wherever you want. Hey, hey, guess what? I went to Venice on nothing. You went to
Yeah.
India on nothing,
Yeah.
but gratitude and intentions. And look where it brought you. A lot of people look you know, at the top. They never see the journey.
Yeah.
All they see is what happens at the top, and that's what they want immediately.
Yeah.
Gratitude. I think the young people want they want it immediately. And it's because of social media. It's because of,
Hmm.
all the platforms we have because they see it happening immediately. But I mean, sometimes it's very dubious, you know,
Hmm.
and then sometimes it could be true. But I think the traditions that we grew up on, as far as meeting someone, getting married, having kids, kids going off to college, being empty nesters, I think we're moving away from that wholeheartedly. And I think we've moved away from it quite a bit since COVID, actually. Things
Yeah.
have changed,
I
you
mean,
know.
one of the most powerful things about travel is breaking down all these preconceived notions about people who are different from you. And,
Absolutely.
I've sat on, dirt floor huts with Tanzanians, and they're the most beautiful, generous people, and they would give you anything they have, and they have almost nothing, but they live a
Right.
life of joy. And,
That's
and they're engaged in nature, they're engaged in their family, they're engaged in their community. And I mean, those are the most important things, as long as you have food,
right. Mhm.
clothing, and shelter, that's the foundation for kind of creating anything you want. But it's the foundation of joy, I suppose, if you can find joy in the simplicity of those core values of life.
Do you think us or we as Americans find it very difficult to be happy with that way of life because we're capitalist and that's all I mean, we're victims of our own society. I'm a capitalist to my heart, and I think,
Yeah.
most Americans are. It's because we don't know any better.
Yeah.
Even when you go to travel, and you said you've been concentrating on self now and trying
Hmm.
to blow self up because you want people to be aware of what you're doing, which makes
Yeah.
sense.
Hmm.
But I think as a whole, as Americans, and being able, like yourself, to travel early on and see the world three, four times over and understand that people don't have, and they do seem much more happier than we are. It's because we're stuck in what we've created for ourselves. We're victims of our own society, you know? And it's like when I went to Amsterdam, and I remember looking around going, why don't I see any businessmen? Anybody in suits or anything? Because they were all high. Everybody was smoking. And you're talking 20, 30 years ago. I'm like, wow, okay. So they're all victims of their own society with what they have done here. Now they've
Well, I
cleaned
don't
it
know
up.
about that. A lot of Dutch don't actually smoke weed. It's more the tourists that do it.
I don't know. I was there quite some time, and
Yeah.
quite a bit of Dutch was
Okay. Well,
quite, especially the ones from Suriname. They were really smoking. I
okay.
didn't know anything about it till I got there, and I just understood that they had these what are they, coffee shops,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
yeah, all of the coffee shops that were there and the bars even. And now recently, since it has become legal and I'm in New York City, I'm walking around, I smell it everywhere. It's crazy. They need to take a page from Amsterdam's book and
Hmm.
create safe places for people to do, you
Oh,
know,
100%.
this. And walking down the street with little babies walking next to you, and then the person in front of you has just lit up. You're like, wait a minute. I liked it better when it was illegal and it was kind of fun and you snuck and did it.
Yeah.
Now it's like it's annoying actually.
Hmm.
You know. And people say, I can't believe you feel that way, Jane. I'm like, I do. I said, I'm an adult. I have grandkids. I mean, I have nieces and I have my family, we have young grandkids and they're walking the streets. It's like
Yeah.
everybody's out partying together. And it doesn't make sense to me.
I
But
mean, the rule doesn't make sense, but a lot of things in society doesn't make sense. And going back to America, yeah, we've become this. We think hustling is like a sign of success, or it's like,
right?
no.
What happened to work?
Yeah, finding stillness within yourself is really a sign of success. Detaching yourself from the external world, following your joy, your passion, your hobbies,
Mhm.
that is success, because that's what's going to bring you joy. And what good
100.
is $1 billion if you're miserable on the inside?
Yeah, and most people are that have more
Yeah.
than millions of dollars. Most of them are miserable. They don't know what to do with themselves because they can do anything and they've probably done it all. And now it's, what do you do?
If you're awake, you move into service and you
Right.
give back.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or you surround yourself with family and take care of them and, like you said, donate time or whatever you have. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't do that because that's not exciting. That doesn't make them happy. And the ones that do, we understand that this world is based on servitude. This
Yeah.
whole, whatever we do, we have to, give back and leave some type of legacy within our lives, even if it's the smallest thing. You did something good while you were here, because we're
Yeah.
only here for a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
After
I
my 40s, it seemed like time just flew by.
when I was in India, um, I was going through this really lonely time, and I was just asking God, the universe, to send me a friend or something. And I wound up staying at this hotel and befriending the owner. And one night we were hanging out and having a drink, and I said, this is a pretty big day for me." And he's like, "Why is that?" I was like, "Well, it's the 1 year anniversary of my mother passing away." And he kind of took this long pause and looked inward, and then he just raised his glass and he said, "To the love she created and her love that endures." And
Oh,
really, at the end of the day, that's all there is. We can't take anything else with us, but
no, we can't.
we can leave this loving imprint in the dimension, in the field, because that is just, I mean, it's a very simplistic way, but you can think of what you create, the love you create is just bouncing
Mhm.
around the universe or bouncing around the earth, and it's it's extolled into all the people that you affected, and your children and your grandchildren, and they propagate that love, hopefully into the world and continue to make it a better place.
Yeah. It's interesting. You said something really poignant there, because I heard another person say that when you lose someone that you love dearly, it's like love that has nowhere to go. You don't know where
Hmm.
to put it anymore. But you
Yeah.
just kind of summed it up for me because when I heard that, I went, well, it does have somewhere to go. It's still
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah.
You carry it differently. You live with it. And the tears become smiles and the smiles become laughter. And then it's the conversations about that person, how good they were and the things they did that made us happy. So
Yeah.
that love that we lost, just the physical part of it is gone.
Right.
But all of that they gave us is still here. I dread that day because my mom is 86. And like you said, we think we're going to be all right. And I've thought about that day many, many times, you know, because
Yeah.
I'm here with her now. And I always say, I'm going to be all right. But I know
Yeah.
it'll never be all right, but it will be all right.
Right. I mean, it's my belief that, they just transform into energy, into pure consciousness, which is just right on the other side of the veil. And, I always ask my mom and dad for signs. And, I always get them in little ways. My mom, it's usually kind of something funny. My
Mhm.
dad, if I kind of really, need something from him, something hits me so hard that it just reduces me to tears, because that was what I was always trying to connect with. I was trying to make this emotional connection with my dad.
Wow.
And he was this World War II Purple Heart Bronze Star veteran, emotionally shut down. I knew he loved me, but like I wanted that emotional connection. And now when I ask him for something, I have to be careful, because like he just hits me with a wrecking ball of love that just reduces me to tears. And I mean,
That's beautiful.
it doesn't matter that it was 20, 21 years ago or something like that. My mom 14 years ago, it's still right there. And I mean,
Oh,
most of the
100%.
time I think about them in loving ways or something, but sometimes my guard's down or something, and I let that love in, and it just reduces me to tears. But I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
of
beautiful
course.
power of love. That's the beautiful power of love. It's you
That's true.
still feel it so viscerally and emotionally and spiritually.
That's so true. I get that. My dad passed away a long time ago in 87. And I remember saying to myself, everyone always told me, that was one of the first people I ever lost that was really, really close to me, and I am his child. Um, I remember thinking, everybody tells me they come back and they come to see you and you dream about them. it took a very long time for him to come to me, like
Mm.
years. And I think it was when, right before I got married, he came to me. And he was young, which was interesting. And I remember before the time I actually got to sit in front of him and talk to him within the dream, every time I would try to get close to him or go into a room where I knew he was waiting for me, he would be gone.
Mm.
So it was a time that I really needed him, and I manifested him coming to me because I was getting married. So I
Beautiful.
get, and I said, I really need you. You're not going to be able to do this dance with me. I know you would have loved this man, and that's unfortunate. And he came to me, and I was like, oh my God, it really happened. Maybe I really didn't put the heart there where it should have been. I was just thinking, oh, I hope dad comes to me. But
Yeah.
at this point, it was emotions, bawling, and then going to sleep saying, okay, it's going to be all right. Your
Hmm.
wedding is here. You got the man that you care about, and you're all right.
Yeah.
And he did come to me. So yeah, it's so true. The power of manifestation, and that goes across the board with anything you want to do in your life and with the people you love. And even now, I think back on things, people that I dated and people that I cared for. I'm so careful when I'm analyzing now. And I'm very careful with the words I speak.
Hmm.
Because if not, things like that, you just have to be very cognizant of how you speak and what you put out there in the world today. Even as a mentor, I mentor quite a few agents, young agents, and I hear the way they speak and I go, guys, it's going to be all right. Stop pushing yourself to the point of breaking. Just
Yeah.
take your time, show up, trust the process. And when you get there, you'll know you're there because it's going to be so full on. You're going to
Yeah.
be so excited because I remember the day that I worked so hard. And it's about the work. It's definitely about the work and showing up. You cannot increase your mental state or physical state if you don't show up and do the work. It's like anything, exercising, you're exercising your brain, and I chased my tail for 4 years before I even figured out what I was doing.
Yeah.
Every business is different. And people see our business, being in real estate, they think it's easy. We go sell a house. Oh, no. But when you get up into the multi-million dollar properties, you're actually taking on finance. You're actually dealing with someone's biggest asset that they're ever going to purchase in their life. And it's finance, it's not real estate. We're not just opening a door and there's the kitchen in there. No, now it comes, the negotiation part comes in. And that's
Hmm.
where you show your strength, understanding your work, your market, and the negotiations. And a lot of agents, they think they open the door and here's the bathroom, here's the kitchen, it's beautiful. Do you want it? Sign on a dotted line. No, we have a lot of work to do once they make that decision. And sometimes they're not strong enough or mature enough to understand that because their personal feelings get in the way. And I tell them all the time, you have to grow up fast in this business.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah. And a lot of people think it's easy and we make a lot of money doing nothing. But I wish it was that easy and we made a lot of money doing nothing. It's not
There's
easy.
I don't think there's any job that you make a lot of money doing nothing. There's,
No.
at least on the way up, there's a lot of sacrifices and learning and hardships along the way. And I mean, you can think of them as hardships, you can think of them as initiations.
And
So,
I tell everybody, Tim, listen, it is a lot of hardship and climbing is not easy,
mhm,
and stop looking at mid level. If you look at the top and talk to the people at the top, they're going to tell you that the climb was difficult. Nobody's climb is easy.
no.
So, and even writing a book, I mean, I feel you when you talk about writing that book. I think that was one of my greatest accomplishments for myself because before social media, writing a book was a huge deal for anybody.
Yeah.
Now today, writing a book, oh, she wrote a book, he wrote a book. Oh, everybody writes a book.
Hmm.
It's the book that you write. Is that book delivering service to people? Is it helping people? What is this book about? And I love mentoring. I love mentoring and teaching people. I think it's one of the greatest things you could offer to people, to help them accomplish what they want in life and open them up. And that's my last question to you because you already answered the question. We talked about what do you think what does authenticity mean to you? I already know what that means. That means the world to you,
Mhm.
which is amazing. But
Yeah.
repeat that for our audience.
Well, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I on sort of the scale of consciousness, you would think that love would be the highest, but authenticity is actually the highest thing. And, I think you're not serving the world if you're not being your authentic self. If you're not, and what does authenticity mean? It means like pure self-expression, I think. And the world the world needs more authenticity. There's so many, you know, fakes and just people
Falsehoods.
like repackaging or mimicking somebody or something, and it's like, no, what does your authentic soul want to express in this life? It's shorter than we think. I mean,
Oh,
you know I'm already 50, and I'm like, how the hell did that happen?
right?
I feel like I'm
Easy
probably early
25.
30s or something. Yeah.
Easy. I do
Yeah.
too. I agree with you 100%. Um, I'm right there. And I feel like I can do anything and everything. And I'm saying to myself, wow, it's not enough time. I want to do this. I want to go to high schools and teach high school children, about real estate and that
Yeah.
they have another option. And college could still be on the back burner and this could be on the front. And if you don't like it, you can always go back. So,
Exactly.
I think for me, I don't even know where I'm going to get that type of time, but I want to go into the high schools and teach at the high school level, even if it's just speaking to them, a day of speaking to them about what real estate means with no
Yeah.
seals and earning that type of money for your family and closing the generational gap for you.
Yeah.
Just financial literacy, anything. And I'm saying to myself, Jane, when are you going to get that kind of time? But it's that thing inside that keeps saying, you need to find that time. That's a part of who you are. That's a part of what you need to give back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to find it. It might not be this year, but I definitely will find it because I think it's a necessity, you know,
Hmm. It's
and that's
like
life.
I kind of talk about in both of these books the soul ache, and when you ignore the soul ache, it just
Hmm.
gets bigger and bigger, and you are met with more resistance and all this stuff. And I think our soul ache is actually like a spiritual GPS system. We all try to go around it or avoid it, but you're supposed to pass through it,
That's
and
right.
that gets back to alignment and authenticity.
That's the healer.
Hmm.
Definitely. That soul ache, once you answer that, because it never, ever, ever goes away.
Yeah.
That's what made me unpack that thing that kept saying, no, this is not right. I feel it in my gut. My gut, trust your gut, Jane. Do this. Took me almost 5 years.
Yeah,
That's a
and
long
every
time.
time you ignore it, the lesson gets bigger and bigger and more painful until you just can't ignore it anymore.
And then COVID took two of those away from me. So it was just like, okay, so now I can't go anywhere. I can't even go to Italy and live. So
Yeah.
if nobody wants you because this monster is traveling around the world. So
Hmm.
that was interesting. But yeah, that I like what you said, the soul ache. The soul, you have to listen to the soul, or guess what? Nothing works.
Yeah.
In the end, you will be so resentful because you didn't do anything that you wanted to do.
Hmm.
That's what I didn't want to happen to me. I didn't want to wake up one day and be resentful to the people around me because
Yeah.
it's not fair to them, because you can't make anybody happy but yourself. And if you're not happy, everybody else is null and void. You
Amen to
can't.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it
absolutely.
right there in a nutshell.
Yeah, right. So, with that being said, tell people where they can find you. And I would love to talk to you a little bit more because I didn't even get into that book, and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
I had one other question, and that question was, okay, let me think. I had one other question for you. We talked about authenticity. And the last thing, I wanted to ask you, and we never touched on that. How do you go about teaching or mentoring your people? I mean, you are a wealth of information when it comes to feeling the soul,
Yeah.
understanding who you are, and trying to get yourself in alignment.
Hmm.
I mean, how does that unfold?
Well, I mean, I've started coaching. I didn't really. wasn't something I set out to do. It was just kind
Mhm.
of people kept asking me for help and stuff. And so I mean, I have sort of this thing I call the dream tethering process. And the beginning is like identifying your soul ache, and then kind of creating a roadmap and a plan and surrender and trust. And when you align all these things, you wake up in your dream. And that's the embodiment in our, like, you don't have knowledge and wisdom until you embody it. It's just an intellectual concept on you do that until you do that. But I mean, I love coaching and mentoring and sharing wisdom and teaching. And so uh, it would probably take longer to go through, but I just kind of do this dream tethering process is what I
Mhm.
call it. It's what my whole new book is about. And it's really teaching people kind of this new energy paradigm, and that you don't have to move through the world like a bowling ball or a wrecking ball to get what you want. You actually just have to be still, and you have to, untether. We have all these unconscious programs and conditions and wounds, and you can't dream tether until you untether from those things. So you have to become familiar with the the wounded unknown self, and then you move through dream tethering. You move into the unknown self, the future unknown self, which is where the
Right.
dream resides. But the dream actually resides right now, because all of time is happening right now.
Exactly.
And if you want to create the future, you make the changes in the present moment.
It's kind of going backwards in the dream state to figure it out.
Yeah, it's
It's
kind of, I do say
what you're saying. Yeah, it's kind
it's
of going
actually a reverse engineering process.
right.
It's not
Fantastic.
like the typical kind of, goal making, move forward. It's no, connect with it, and then you become the vortex that pulls it towards you. And that's when the serendipity and synchronicity and breadcrumbs all start lining up. When you get into alignment with that higher self, that higher dream, your purpose, what brings you joy, etc.
Wow. I could talk to you all day, you know that, right? I'm just
We,
sitting
we,
here.
would- we could
I'm
definitely
just
have,
sitting here going, I got so many questions. I'm
yeah.
going to ask you one last question and they'll cut this up any which way. What is your vision for your business in the future? Now
I
that
mean,
you have unpacked everything pretty
yeah,
much.
yeah. I mean, in one regard, I'm already kind of living it. I'm pretty discriminatory about who I work with, because I want to learn something from people. I want to do more sort of public speaking. And I was just at this Dr. Joe Dispenza workshop about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the first day one, I had this really brutal, challenging meditation, and I was just kind of beating myself up, like, what the hell am I doing? Like, just show me a sign that I'm in the right place, all that stuff. And on the next break, I wound up meeting this woman, and she's like, found out what I did. And she's like, oh my God, I want to invite you down to this Miami speaking thing. And
There
it
it is.
is, it's some very, very big names have been on this stage, like Salman Rushdie and Malcolm Gladwell and Mel Brooks and all this stuff. And so,
Fantastic.
yeah, there's a very good chance I will be speaking down there in the first quarter of 2025. And I want the freedom to be able to work on the projects I want, and really to put my own work out into the world. I've kind of had these mentorships with these incredible people, and I am just distilling them into my own sort of whatever, my own process, my own language and everything. And I think my greatest gift, and I asked for it, but is to distill complex information so that people can understand what our lives are, what the purpose of our lives are, how to move into the self-actualization of it. So in some regards, I'm already doing it, but I just want to do it at a grander scale. And I want to touch more people and inspire more people and wake more people up.
That's beautiful. I feel like I'm talking to the next Jay Shetty here.
I am starting a podcast that I will be drawing from a lot of my community and resources, but it's going to be called the Inciting Incident, because
Oh, please invite me.
I'm so interested in what made, what was that pivotal moment that made the successful person, or the public person that you see, what altered their trajectory to make them, who they are today. So, yeah, it's probably a month or 2 months out from launching, but if you want to follow that, you can sign up for my newsletter at therealtimshields.com, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm the real Tim Shields as well, and I'm
Oh,
just
there's nobody else like you. I've
well,
interviewed quite a few people. Trust me.
well, thank you. Well, I've been very hesitant. Part of these big publishing houses, they're like, we love your work, but you don't have a big social media following. So I'm just starting to play that game. Like, I think we're launching my social media this week or next week or something like that. So, in the end of this book, I don't know how I'm going to rewrite it because I'm talking to my younger self, but I say, live life like it's document worthy,
Oh,
and stop
love it.
playing small, because this is no time to play small. And the
That's
other
right.
thing, the other thing is, if you want to be, the main character in your life, if you want to be the hero in the hero's journey, you got to make main character choices.
Ooh, love it. Love it. Hey,
Yeah.
that's what
So
we have to say to that. And
to
guess
all you
what?
folks, make some main character choices today.
Absolutely. And guess what? There's no elevator, ride up to success. You have to take the stairs. So slow your
Amen.
road, get ready for the process. And I am so excited that I talked to you and I can't wait. Please invite me on your podcast when it
I
comes
will.
out.
Yeah.
I
It was,
listened to, I think it was the YouTube
uh
station that you sent me. And I have to go to your page and read all that. But I thought
hmm
it was very interesting. And guess what? I mean, when your new book comes out or the old book that you have written, if you like me to put it on my Instagram, I will.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, I don't have a million followers. I think I have like 50 something thousand, but
That's a
I
hell of a
love
lot more than I do. But yeah,
but it's okay. And I got it being intentional. Once you start
yeah.
and you start speaking,
hmm
trust me, people will come.
I know. I think I've actually kind of been hiding a little bit, which is probably why I'm the ghostwriter in this life. But it's time for me to move out front.
That's
And
right. You're coming out front.
yeah,
I'm
so
coming.
the URL to the first book also is acuriousyear.com. There's a beautiful book trailer that was filmed in India, and my nephew scored
Oh,
the
I
music.
saw it. That's the
Yeah.
one I saw. Yes.
My nephew scored the music when he was 18, and he's my godson, and I've basically been kind of teaching him this stuff my whole life, and about a year ago he was ready. He was not in a good place, and last August he played at Red Rocks, and I'm going to see
Oh,
him
I love
play.
Red Rocks.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm going to he's touring the world. I'm going to see him play tomorrow night in San Diego. So
Wow.
yeah,
So you really steered him in the right direction.
this stuff works. Yeah.
It does. It does. I 100% I believe you. I mean, I believe in the universe and I ask it every day. Send me a sign that I can relate to in real
Every day
time
I ask. Yeah.
today. I want to
Yeah.
know. And the sign today was you. You made me
Well,
listen to everything. I'm so much more enlightened and I love it and I can't wait to speak to you again, Tim.
it was a pleasure. I'll speak anytime you want to chat.
Absolutely. And don't forget, send me the information and I will definitely put it on my site.
Okay.
All
Will do.
right?
Yeah.
Nice talking to you, Tim. Guys, listen, Tim Shields. Don't forget this name. He has everything you need to keep you moving towards your light to become successful. You just have to listen to what he's saying. Thank you, Tim.
Thank, thank you so much.